I am not a human being. And by the end of this video, I'm going to prove that you are not a human being either. And once you discover this, your reality shifts permanently. Now, I know this sounds weird, but this all started when I was a kid. I was at school and the teacher wanted us to categorize different materials into man-made materials and natural materials. I think it was an exercise to do with petroleum or producing oil or something like that, and a refinery. And they said, which of these are man-made in this process, which are natural? And I said, everything is natural. There's no difference between the two. There's no difference between nature and a human. So this was the start of it for me, that I kind of saw through this veil that the term human being was just something that had been given to us by a so-called human being. It literally, one day, somebody decided to categorize all that there is and divide it into separate bits and say, actually, everything that we see here when we look out and we see the sunshine and the stars and the trees, and yeah, of course we give these things names, but when we look out at all of this, let's now start dividing it up. Let's say that that's a bird, that's a tree, that's a river, this is a human being. But the moment that that happens and a definition and a label is given to something, that's when separation begins. That's when suffering begins. Because now you feel, I'm a separate individual, moving in the world, fighting against life. And if I don't get things going my way, and things happen to me that I don't like, it's going to cause me unhappiness. And everyone has this feeling that they're the hero in their own story, and they're trying to move through life and bend it to their will. But what I soon realized is that it's not the case. We are not human beings. We are not individuals. The simplest way to look at this is to systematically, almost scientifically in fact, start to analyze and experiment what you are not. Don't take my word for it. Just research this and look into this with your own experience, not from what you read, see or watch or listen to, but from your own direct experience. You know that when you were much younger, your body was different, right? You used to look in the mirror and what you saw back then is vastly different to what you see now. So your body has changed, but the sense of you is still the same. The you, what you call I, has remained the same, right? And if you change that body, if you lost an arm in an accident, if you lost use of limbs, if you put on massive amount of weight or you lost a bunch of weight, if your body changed dramatically, would you still say, I am me? Yeah, of course you would, right? So you are not your body. That I, when you say I am or I am aware, and you think of that awareness, as you're aware of these words and aware of images and so on around you, sensations, that I never changes. The quality of that awareness is no different now to what it was when you were a child. What's happening within that awareness, what you see in the mirror or the experiences happening around you, of course, are vastly different. But the awareness itself has not changed one iota. So the experiences, let's talk about that. Things that come and go, sensations. I feel hot, I feel cold, I feel happy, I feel sad, I feel up, I feel down. They come and go. You can't be something that comes and goes because you're always here. that sense of I or I am is always present. It doesn't turn on and turn off. You might say, well, in deep sleep, I'm not conscious. There is no awareness. But in fact, rather than there being a lack or an absence of awareness, you're actually aware of absence. You're aware of the nothingness during deep sleep. There is no sensation, there is no experience other than awareness in deep sleep. And when you wake up every morning, of course, you start having sensations, experiences, thoughts, perceptions, and we mistake those for being ourselves rather than the awareness that we truly are. So you can systematically discount the body and say, I am not the body. You might think, well, wait a minute, isn't consciousness created by the brain? You can go out and spend thousands of hours researching this and diving into all the research papers from the top scientists, neuroscientists, brain scientists, and any other type of scientist you want around the world. And what you're going to find is the following. There is absolutely no evidence that consciousness is created by or in the brain. Just dwell on that for a second. No evidence that that's how consciousness is created or where it resides. It's equally as plausible that consciousness is universal, that consciousness is all that there is. And this thing that we've decided to call a brain is merely a receptor of that consciousness. There is just as much evidence of that, i.e. zero, as there is that the brain creates consciousness. So you can discount the body as being you, because if the body changes, you still call yourself you. If you could be kept alive, for the sake of argument, just your head and no body, you would still call yourself you. Right? Now, if you fall into the category of feeling, well, I feel the brain does create consciousness, and if somebody chops my head off or puts a bullet through my brain, I will cease to exist. We don't know that. There's no evidence for that. You have to go on what you feel. You have to go on your own direct experience and your own intelligence, your innate intelligence, not book wisdom, but your own innate intelligence, your gut feel on these things. So if your body changes, even if you change gender, you would still say I am. The I, or the I am, would still feel exactly the same. I am aware. Before you add anything else, before you say I am a man, I am a woman, I am non-binary, or I am an engineer, or I am 50 years old, or I am American, or I am a teacher, or whatever, before you add anything after the I am would be exactly the same regardless of how your body is. Right? So you're not the body. What about the mind? You have this voice going off in your mind. Is that you? Well, it comes and goes, does it not? And if something comes and goes, if something arises and then passes away, that can't be you. You don't exist and then not exist and then exist again and not exist. You're aware before there are any thoughts. You're aware of the thoughts. And you're aware after the thoughts have passed away or passed through. So what is that I that is aware of the thoughts? And surely, if the thoughts were you, that internal voice, that dialogue, that mind, if that was you, wouldn't you already know that it was you? You see, in order to see anything or be aware of something, there needs to be distance. You look at the screen, you look at the tree, There's a distance between you and that object. So if you're able to see your thoughts and observe them, which you are, it would suggest that they are not you, because there's a distance. And also the fact that they arise and pass away, they come and go. The other reason that demonstrates that the mind is not you is the fact you don't create these thoughts. You're not in control of them. They come willy-nilly like a pinball machine through your mind without you asking for it. Random on many occasions. And if you don't believe me, just watch your mind, watch your thoughts the next time you take a shower. When you have nothing else to do, you're in the shower and your mind just kind of goes wacky. All these thoughts pop in your head. You don't control them. The mind is not you. So the body is not you. The mind is not you. The body-mind. So if that's not you, then what is you? Is your name you? If you change your name, you're still you. You'll still say, I am, if you change your name, right? If you change your nationality, your job, your location, your history, you would still say, I am, even if you had a different history. That I am, that sense of being would still remain. So you can clearly see through your own experimentation and direct inquiry that if you're not these things, you can discount these things one by one. I'm not the body, I'm not the mind, I'm not my name, I'm not my gender, I'm not my location, I'm not my job, and so on. That surely a arbitrary name or title such as human being does not describe what you are. Now, of course, it's an attempt to categorize. It helps, it makes sense from a language point of view. We need to be able to communicate about what's seen, but any word, any use of language, including these words, are false at the absolute level. They are an attempt, a grasping attempt to point towards the truth, but they are ultimately false. A tree is not a tree. When we say tree, we don't see the actual tree. It's not an individual thing. If you remove the planet from the tree does not exist. If you take away water from tree does not exist. So tree is everything, and everything is tree. It's the same. There is only all that there is. This idea that everything must have a category and a name and a definition comes itself from people's mistake of believing they are people, from a human being's mistake of believing it is a separate human being. Because in that single decision to separate yourself from the universe, from all that there is, and say there is everything out there, and then there is human being, or the me, the individual me here, that is what creates suffering. An awakening is simply realizing that there is no individual. There is nothing called a human being. It's completely arbitrary. It's a label that's been given to us by something that believed it to be separate when it's not. So if you're not the body and you're not the mind, you're not your name, your job, your career, your location, your gender, you're not a human being, then what are you? Well, this is the mystery. This is what awakening and self-inquiry are all about. And as you dive deeper into this, you may come to realize that the only true thing you can say about about the I am, is simply that. I am. Anything beyond that is an untruth.